You know, it's a classic story, right? How a warrior's greatest strength, their discipline, their unwavering code of honor, can somehow become the very thing that leads to their downfall. Well, today we're diving into a story that does exactly that.
And this really gets to the heart of our whole explainer. How does a hero's code become their fatal flaw? To answer that, we're going to unpack the tragic story of Green Lantern Lyra Omoto and her father, Cantor. It's a powerful cautionary tale for sure. The best way to understand their story is through this really potent metaphor, the parable of the broken blade. It's this somber idea that a foundation of rigid honor, once it shatters, can become a weapon that turns against itself, drawing the deepest blood. Okay, so to really get how they both fell so far, we have to go back to the beginning. Back to the warrior's creed that forged them both on their homeworld of Jot. This was their shared philosophy, a life of unshakable discipline and absolute duty.
Lyra built her entire life on this, her father's teachings about the warrior spirit, about honor. That was the bedrock of her identity. She absolutely lived by his creed, truly believing her training would always keep her on the right path as a Green Lantern.
But here's the twist. Her father, Cantor, saw that same exact code being abandoned by everyone else. He thought their world was growing weak, and that same sense of honor pushed him down a much, much darker path. He felt the only way to restore it was through absolute tyrannical control.
And that shared foundation, that rigid creed they both believed in? Yeah, I wasn't unbreakable. Disillusionment started to set in, and the first cracks began to appear, starting with the father. His righteous sense of honor began to corrupt into something else entirely. His descent was just this cascade of tragic choices. He returns from the dead, and he's just horrified by what he sees as weakness. So what does he do? He throws away his Green Lantern ring of will and embraces the yellow light of fear. He completely remakes himself as the Golden Dragon, a tyrant who believes terror is the only way to enforce honor. Well, this all led, inevitably, to an absolutely tragic confrontation in the city of Zeol. Lyra, the dutiful daughter and Green Lantern, had to face her own father, now the monstrous Golden Dragon. She had to master her emotions and use the very training he gave her to defeat him.
And she won the battle, but she lost a part of her soul. Her father chose ritual suicide rather than face justice, leaving Lyra with, in her own words, a hollow space where my honor once lived. I mean, that's just devastating. This was the first major crack in her own armor.
From this point on, Lyra's own journey starts to tragically mirror the cynical path her father had already taken. That warrior's creed she held onto so tightly began to fail her, just as it had failed him. And the universe just kept chipping away at her. She was betrayed by a fellow Lantern, Hal Jordan, who stripped her of her ring. She was captured by the cold, logical manhunters. These experiences taught her that the cosmos wasn't some ordered system, but a chaotic, brutal battlefield where trust is a liability. And then it all came to a head. Standing before Amon-Sur, the killer of her mentor, all of her trauma, her father's death, the betrayal, the captivity, it all just culminated in one single moment. She was no longer a disciplined soldier. She was a grieving daughter pushed way past her breaking point.
And here, right here, their paths truly converge. Her father believed traditional systems were too weak to maintain order. In her moment of fury, Lyra made a similar choice. She executed Amon-Sur, choosing her own personal vengeance over the established justice of a trial. In that moment, father and daughter were united in bypassing the system for their own brand of honor.
And that single act of vengeance, it sealed her fate. The disciplined warrior was gone for good, and what was left was about to be consumed by something far more primal.
The consequences were swift and they were severe. The Guardians branded her a murderer, she was exiled from the Green Lantern Corps, the only family she had left, and her ring was taken away. Again, this left this profound, gaping void in her soul.
But as she herself said, that void wouldn't stay empty for long. A different kind of light was just waiting in the darkness to find her.
And a different light absolutely found her. Not the green light of will, but the red light of unquenchable rage. The Red Lantern ring sensed her loss, her grief, her fury, and it filled that void completely, transforming her into a beast of pure rage.
And here is the ultimate tragedy of it all.
Her father taught her to strike without looking, to trust her disciplined intuition. Well, as a Red Lantern, she still struck without looking, but now it was driven by pure blind instinct, the absolute opposite of the discipline he worked so hard to instill in her.
So, when all is said and done, what are we left with? It's a parallel story of two warriors from the same house who followed the same code and in their own ways met the same tragic end. Their shared legacy is, in a word, tragedy. It's the story of a fall from rigid discipline into uncontrollable emotion. Both father and daughter were ultimately destroyed by the very things they swore they would master.
Just look at the tragic symmetry of their falls. It's almost poetic. Both started with the rigid honor of Jad. For Kentor, it was corrupted by fear. For Lyra, it was betrayal and rage. Both bypassed justice for their own ends, one for tyranny, the other for vengeance. And their final fates, while different, were both a direct result of their inability to reconcile their code with a chaotic universe.
And that brings us to this haunting final thought, straight from their story. Two sides of the same broken blade. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the line between a warrior's honor and the darkness in their heart is thinner than we could ever possibly imagine.